food on Shabbat. And remember, we said that the distinction between insulating on Shabbat, which we said you cannot insulate on Shabbat, and even if it's not adding heat, but during the weekdays, I mean Friday afternoon before Shabbat, we said that you have the ability to insulate food as long as it's not adding any heat. Right? That's what we said. So the Mishnah here on 49A1 is discussing which types of items you could use to insulate your food before Shabbat, which we don't consider adding heat. I don't know if you want to send to the group. Tomnim biksut. You could go ahead and you could insulate before Shabbat with a garment, with payroad, fruit, the kanfeyona, dove's feathers. All these things do not add heat, and you could insulate the food before Shabbat, meaning let's say take the pot off the fire, be right before Shabbat, and wrap it in these items. You could use like sawdust that comes, with carpentry when it cuts the wood. You could use that to insulate. When orod shalpishim daka, the small pieces that fall off the flax when you comb the flax, those are considered not adding heat. And if you could use the small pieces, certainly the big pieces don't give off heat. Yehuda forbids you to insulate with the thin pieces, but umatir begasa. It only allows you to go ahead and use the larger pieces because he feels those don't add any heat. Okay, that's a little bit about that. Comes the Gemara and says the following. We mentioned in the Mishnah the feathers of a dove's feathers. Now the Gemara is going to mention something else where it mentions feathers of a dove. Maybe I'm just going to, should really get the Tehillim, because we're going to need it for a pasuk of Tehillim. 1 second. You see, we're going to see that the Jewish people are compared to a dove. We're going to see about how the mitzvot protect the Jewish people. We'll see that the feathers of a dove are very unique. That the dove bites feathers protected against animals and human beings, and it's the mitzvot that we're going to see that protect us. So let's see what the Gemara is going to say. The Gemara says, Omer Rav Yanai, Tefillin srichim gufnoki. Tefillin requires a clean body. So that's a halacha regarding tefillin, that you have to make sure that when you're putting on your tefillin, when you're wearing your tefillin, that your body doesn't emit any gases. Take a look in Shulchan Aruch and Siman Lamed Zayin. It says, it needs a clean body. That you shouldn't emit any gases, and therefore, because of that, and he says there's two things. Good morning, Mark.
Well, Rabbi,
Welcome back.
thank you.
We just started a new Gemara about tefillin.
Oh, wow.
About tefillin, the Gemara says needs to have a clean body. That a person should not emit any gases, any not proper smells while he's wearing the tefillin. And the Gemara says, and the Shulchan Aruch says that really there's a mitzvah to wear tefillin the whole day. The mitzvah is to wear the tefillin the whole day. The Chafetz Chaim in his Bir Halacha brings from the Pri Megadim that has the question: is the Minat Torah enough just to have put it on 1 second in the morning? Is that would be the Torah law? That's the obligation. But rabbinically, they used to say you should wear it the whole day. Or are you really obligated the whole day in tefillin? The only question is if you say that is the two possible two sides of the coin. Now, and he concludes that if a person misses a day without tefillin, a person violated, he was mevatel, he nullified a mitzvah aseh, a positive commandment. But if he put on the tefillin for one moment of the day, guy puts on, he wrapped tefillin, but he didn't pray with the tefillin he just wrapped it, he put it on. Maybe he said the Shema with the tefillin, maybe he didn't say the Shema with the tefillin. Just the fact that you wear the tefillin for 1 second, you got the mitzvah. But the mitzvah min hamuvcha, the best way to do the mitzvah, from the Torah's perspective, that you should wear it the whole day. That seems to be the conclusion of the Pri Megadim. Now, the Shulchan Aruch himself says there's a mitzvah to wear the tefillin the whole day. You could say according to that Pri Megadim, you could either say it's a mitzvah Rabbanan, it's to wear tefillin the whole day, but from the Pri Megadim, it sounds like it's a mitzvah from the Torah, ideally to wear the tefillin the whole day, but technically you don't need to wear them the whole day from the Torah, but it's ideal. But today, because tefillin requires a clean body, the Shulchan Aruch Moran HaMechaber says, and also that you shouldn't lose focus that you're wearing the tefillin, because there's another halacha that if you forget that you're wearing you can't forget. You always have to be conscientious, if that's the right word, that you're wearing the tefillin, because you're not allowed to have kalut rosh. You can't be lightheaded with the tefillin. Can't crack a joke with your tefillin on, because that's not respectful. That means you're acting not appropriately, so you can't lose focus. You have your tefillin, and not everybody's able to keep their mind on that they have the tefillin on throughout the day, and not everyone is able to keep their bodies clean. So therefore, he says the custom is not to wear the tefillin the whole day. But a person, nevertheless, every person should be careful to have the tefillin on during Kriyat Shema and Tefillah and Amidah, davening. So then the Chafetz Chaim brings down. Let's see. So he sends us to Siman Chaf Hey Sif Yud Gimel. Let's see what he says over there.
I knew a rabbi that was tefillin all day in Israel. He was a very famous rabbi. I think he used to be a movie star. His name was Rabbi Yuri, I think. Can't forget
Uri Zohar.
Uri Zohar. He used to wear tefillin all day.
Right. So the Chafetz Chaim brings down that this halacha, good morning, Asaf, is for the average person. But Anshe Maisa, first he says there are people of action that learn also with the tefillin after davening. So he didn't mention what you said about wearing the tefillin the whole day, but there was a famous Rabbi Scheinberg in New York and then moved to Israel, who wears tefillin the whole day. And then the Chafetz Chaim says,
Rabbi Scheinberg, the Tzitzit rabbi?
Yeah, the Tzitzit rabbi, correct.
Oh, yeah. I know him too.
Oh, very good.
I know his children too.
Very nice. But a person should be careful not to talk dvarim b'teilim. Because if you're wearing it you're wearing it after davening and you're learning, so therefore you got to make sure you don't talk idle talk with your tefillin on. He says, because besides the problem of talking just talking just to talk, But he says that the problem is if you just idle chatter, it's going to lead you to lose focus of the tefillin. So in Simin Chaf Hey, Sifrit Gimel, he says that the minhag, he talks about when people take off the tefillin. So he says people, the Morana Machaber says, we wait until Kedushat Uvol Tzion, until after Uvol Tzion, till after that Kaddish, or some wait obviously longer, when they actually take off the tefillin. Obviously, the longer you wear your tefillin, the better. Every second you get a mitzvah, my humble opinion, by wearing the tefillin. And the Chafetz Chaim also writes, the Morana Machaber says, great is the reward of the mitzvah of tefillin. And he says, and the Chafetz Chaim says, anybody who wears tefillin, marich yamim bol mazeh. People want to live a long life. Everyone's looking for a skula to live a long life. Putting on tefillin increases longevity. And he brings the pasuk, Hashem alehem yichyu. When you carry the name of Hashem on you, you have the name of Hashem in the tefillin, he says a fascinating thing. He says, you'll have Ulam Haba, person will have the next world, the fire of Gehenna will not have power over him, his sins will be forgiven. He quotes the Torah. So it's a very, very powerful reward for people putting on tefillin every day. So getting back to the Gemara, so the Gemara says tefillin requires a clean body, like Elisha. Amar Rav Yanai, tefillin requires a clean body, Elisha bal kanafayim. Like Elisha, the man of wings. It doesn't mean wings, it means he was the man of the feathers. We're going to see what does it mean, the man of bal kanafayim. We'll see here, what does it mean? Elisha, he's the man bal kanafayim. He's the man of wings. He has wings, An eagle has wings. What does it mean that Elisha is the man of wings? So the Gemara says, morning mark. Mahi. So what is the story about Elisha, the Baal Kanafayim? So now the Gemara wants to say, what does it mean guf naki? What does it mean clean body? Now, first of all, it says tefillin requires a clean body like Elisha. Elisha was a very holy man. We're not talking about Elisha and the Navi, Elisha and Eliyahu and Elisha the Naviim. We're going to see in the Gemara who Elisha was, 49a. What is it, A1, A2? What is it, 49A1, right? Towards the bottom of the page. It needs a clean body like Elisha. Tefillin, we use him as an example. And we're going to see, the Gemara is going to be an amazing story about a miracle that happened to Elisha with his tefillin. And it doesn't say anything about that he had a clean body when he wore his tefillin. So Tosfos says that since a miracle happened to him while he was wearing his tefillin, most probably he was very careful with the tefillin, and he kept all the details of the law of tefillin, which requires a clean body. So tefillin needs a clean body like Elisha. Mahi, what does it mean to be a clean body? Abaye Omar Shalei Afiach Behem. Abaye says that you should not emit any gases. He's able to control himself, not to emit any gases until he actually would remove his tefillin. And Reuven says, Reuven Omar Shelo Yishan Behem. Reuven says you have to be able to be on the level that you will not fall asleep with your tefillin. But if you fall asleep with your tefillin, then there's a concern, you might go ahead and emit gases, because when you're sleeping, you're not controlling yourself. But if you could be careful from sleep, if you're on top of your game and you know that I'm not going to fall asleep, then he's not so concerned. His concern is, are you going to be careful not to fall asleep with your tefillin? You know you're not going to fall asleep. Okay, you can wear your tefillin. That's fine. But and we're not going to worry about, are you going to mitgezes, if you know you're gonna be careful from sleeping. That, we're not so concerned about the other thing, because you're going to control it's easy to control yourself. Everybody is able to control it. That's much easier um, to control. So the way the Ritva explains that every person is uh, is able to control themselves from, it's one of the things, the person controls himself from many gears. Therefore, we don't have to warn you and tell you, talk to you so much about that with the tefillin. But people not falling asleep is a little harder for people to be on top of their game, not to fall asleep. A lot of people they didn't sleep much the night before, and especially learning the whole night, like Mark was doing last night, and they're learning the whole night. They're up late at night. They're with the rabbis late at night, so they need an extra careful not to fall asleep. And so the Gemara says, now the Gemara explains, what does it mean Bal Kenafayim? What does it mean he was a man of wings? Why was he called Bal Kenafayim? Shepam achat gozra malchut Romi haresha agzera Yisrael. One time, the wicked kingdom of the Romans, as you know, they were the one who eventually destroyed the Beit HaMikdash. They made all the decrees, all the famous, the 10 martyrs of Akiva and those great rabbis, where they really killed those 10 great tzaddikim. Those are the Romans. And they made a gzeira, shekol ha-meniach tefillin ya'anaku et mocho. Anybody who puts on tefillin, they're going to poke out his brains. And because the tefillin of the head, now, why the brains? Because that's where you put your tefillin of your head, that area of the brains, and therefore they wanted to. They said they're gonna poke out the guy's brains for that. Very graphic. And Elisha manicham, and Elisha put on the tefillin v'yotzei l'shuk, and he went out to the market. Now Elisha held that he should still wear the tefillin. Now the question is, why did he hold you're supposed to wear the tefillin? If they made a gzeira not to wear tefillin, so he's putting his life in danger, right? So either he held that if there's a time of shmad, if it's a time when the enemy, the goyim, want to make us not keep the Torah mitzvot, they're interested that we should become like them, like the non-Jewish world. So it's possible that he held that you're supposed to give your life even for a mitzvah, even for a mitzvah aseh, even for not only to do an action against the Torah, you can't do an action during the time. Meaning, we have the big three, not to commit it. We say you have to give up your life. Someone says either worship idols or give up your life. Worship the idols, adultery, or murder. You can't kill someone else to save your own life. Those are the three things. But that's during normal times. When a person says, I want you to kill somebody, or else take a bullet or kill someone. Take a bullet or commit adultery. Take a bullet or do avodah zarah. But if the time of shmat, of when the goyim want us to become like them, and they want us to give up our religion, so then you give up your life for even other things, even not those everything else, even not those three. But yeah, and that's so some want to say that he held that you have to give up your life even to do the mitzvah of tefillin. Even mitzvot aseh, even a positive commandment, you would have to give up your mitzvah. You would have to give up your life. Now, that's one way to look at it. But and if we're going to learn that way, so he was willing to do it. So once he has to give up his life to do the mitzvah, then you ask the question: why did he go ahead and do it in public? Right? Why did he do it in public? Either is it because he wanted to encourage everybody else to do the mitzvah? Is that why he did it in public? Um, so some want to say many Rishonim want to say that this law that the person has to give up his life and not to violate the Torah when it's a time of they want to make us like them. That's only if they want us to do an action against the Torah. They want us to eat pork, right? They want us to do things that are violate the losa says. The Torah says, don't do this, and they're telling you, the goyim are telling you who want you to become like them to do against the Torah. But what about if they tell us not to go against, not to go? They tell us they want us to go against the Torah in a way that we're going to be passive. We're not going to do anything. Just don't put on the tefillin today. So does a person have to give up their life during this time period of religious persecution? Do they have to give up their life even to perform a mitzvah? Even if it's a question of performing the mitzvah, not performing the mitzvah, or they also give up a life if it's a question of doing an action against the Torah. But if I'm going to just be passive and I'm not going to keep the law of the Torah by not doing, right? If a person is inactive, right? If a person is inactive and doesn't do the mitzvah of tefillah, correct, Mark? Yeah. He violates the Torah, but he violates the Torah in not being in an inactive fashion, not in an active fashion. There's a difference between an active fashion and a non-active fashion. So some want to say, when do you have to give a person give a life, even for any mitzvah during religious prosecution time? It's only if it's a mitzvah that requires you to do an action. Well, let's say a lo saseh. If you not, I shouldn't say a mitzvah transaction. I should say it differently. If it's a lo saseh, Torah says don't do something, and then you do it. You go it against the Torah because religious prosecution is telling you to do an action against the Torah. But if the religious prosecution is not telling you to do an action against the Torah, it's telling you don't do it a mitzvah. Don't light Chanukah again. Don't put on tefillin. So many Rishonim, many of the opinion, it's not universally, and not everyone agrees on the matter. Many say there's no obligation of giving one's life during religious prosecution times when the ask is not to do something. Not to do against, is not to do something. Therefore, he was allowed. Now, therefore, we're going to see when the guy is going to run after Elisha when he has his tefillin, the Roman guy wants to get him, and we're going to see he's going to take off his tefillin, and like the hide that he's doing the mitzvah. So the commentary is, how is he taking off his tefillin? He's not doing the mitzvah of tefillin. So some want to say, you know why he's not doing the mitzvah of tefillin? Because he doesn't need to give his life to not to violate, because of religious persecution. When this ask is just not to do the mitzvah, it's not an ask to do a proactive action. Therefore, they're asking the question: how did he have a right to take off his tefillin? Meaning, it sounds like they're learning the mitzvah of tefillin is the whole day. Every moment you have to have tefillin on. It sounds like they're holding, and you're actually nullifying. You're not doing the mitzvah. Others could say, no, maybe you have a mitzvah. Maybe the mitzvah is only 1 second. And maybe he took off his tefillin because he already did the mitzvah. It's not a proof that if the ask is to be inactive, you don't have to be, you're allowed to be inactive. No, because that's only if the ask is be inactive on something you already did the mitzvah. The mitzvah already completed. You just every moment you're getting another mitzvah, another mitzvah. So maybe that type of mitzvah, you don't have to give up your life because you have to give it up because you already fulfilled the mitzvah. But let's say if you did not do the mitzvah yet today of tefillin, maybe he would say I would have to, even though they asked me not to do the mitzvah, maybe I would have to give up. Person has to give up his life, even for a asay to perform mitzvah. So it's not clear to prove one way or the other. During religious persecution time, this person has to give up his life, even to be when they ask is to be inactive. When they ask is don't do a mitzvah, I say don't do a positive commandment. So many Rishonim they want to say that Elisha, the one who put on this Elisha, he was allowed to put on tefillin because even though he's not considered um, doing a sin by putting his life in danger. Because let's say, according to the opinions that say that if the ask is to be inactive, you do not have to give up your life. So why do you put himself in danger? If you don't have to give up your life, so why did he put himself in danger to put on the tefillin to begin with? And to go into the marketplace, right? To show everybody I'm wearing the tefillin. That's one thing, right?
Putting your life at risk to be like not, not allowed to.
Right. So there's two major approaches that Eddie, when the Torah says, let's say we said for the big three, you have to give up your life. Let's say not during religious persecution time. Big three, you have to give up your life, then to violate those three. But what about a different mitzvah that's not from those big three? Let's say they say I want you to eat pork. It's not for religious persecution time. Either eat the pork, I'm testing you. Eat the pork, take a bullet. So the Rambam says that wherever the law is, you're supposed to violate the Torah, and when your life's in danger, and you don't do it, you are causing your own death. Meaning the Rambam understands a person has no right to be strict and say, you know what, I don't want to eat pork. I don't want to go ahead and use a razor on my beard. I rather take a bullet. The guy says, I'd rather take a bullet than eat pork during a regular non-religious persecution time. So the Rambam says that person is doing a sin, big time, because you only have to give up your life for those big three during those times, and not for anything else. And if you give up your life, you're causing your own death. That's the Rambam. But others disagree with the Rambam. Others say the Torah doesn't ask of you to give up your life for anything but the big three. But if you want to give up your life, if you on your own want to give up, a person says, I'd rather give up my life and violate the Torah than do that sin, he has a right to. That is that is how. Now, according to the Rambam, that even in a positive commandment, did some want to say that the Rambam holds that in a positive commandment, a person has to give up their life, and he's talking about during the time of religious persecution, right? A person has to give up his life and not to not to violate, not to hold back from doing the mitzvah. And therefore, Elisha wore the tefillin. But why did he take off the tefillin? Is because when the guy came, it's because, good morning, David, is because he already did the mitzvah already that day. So let's see now the Gemara inside. When they see the full story now. So the Gemara says like this. Shapam Achad Gozer Malchut Romer Risha. David, everybody likes the story, right, David? Yeah. So here it's a tragic story with a miracle in the tragedy, right? There are a lot of miracles in the Holocaust. The Romans made a gzera that anybody who puts on tefillin, yinaku esmocho, should we want to take out his brain. Anybody who puts on tefillin. See, the goyim, the Gentiles know our strength more than many times we know our strength. Morning, they know what keeps us going. They know the power of tefillin, and they said they wanted us not to put on tefillin. And they said if they put anybody, one of the decrees, just like the Greeks before the Romans, they made different decrees. Anyone who did a circumcision, they would kill anybody who did a circumcision. They would take the parents and they would hang the parents in front of the child who they did the circumcision to. Unbelievable. And many Jews, they didn't listen, and they did the circumcision on their son during the time of religious persecution, which was a mitzvah aseh. And we see over there that even many people gave up their lives to keep the mitzvah of tefillin during that time period. So Elisha Menicham, there was a person, Elisha, a very holy man, and he was putting on the tefillin, v'yotzei l'shuk, and he went out to the market with the tefillin on. Ru'u kaste echad, and there was one Roman official saw him, and he ran after him. And what happened was, Ratzmi Panav, Elisha ran away. Bekiva Shegia Etzlo, and once the Roman official came to Elisha, Natlam, he took the tefillin mirosho from his head, v'arzam biyodo. You hear what he did? He took the tefillin off. Good morning, Stephen. I don't know if I said hello to Stephen yet. He took the tefillin off and he put the tefillin in his hand, as if to hide the tefillin. So it sounds like the tefillin might not have been so big in those days, right? You could put the tefillin in your hand and hide it in your hand. They wanted to make sure the tefillin was in the right place, above the hairline begins. When you have all these big tefillin, these European tefillins from from Poland, you ever see these European tefillin? They're big. The old tefillin from the 20s, 30s, or maybe I don't know if they made them in New York in the 40s, 50s. They're very big, and therefore it comes down too low. So he put it in his hand, and the guy, Omalo, the Roman officials, Masev yadcha, what do you got in your hand? I mean, if he got him with the goods, then he'll kill him. Omalo, can't for you not. I got the feathers of the wings of a dove. I presume he meant the feathers. I got feathers in my hand. Pashet es yodo. They translate it as feathers, or they read it as wings. Wings of the dove. See, Pashet, he spread it, took out his hand, opened his hand. Nimsu kanfe yonah. And they found it was the dove's wings in his hand. Leficha koren oto Elisha bal kanafayim. Therefore, because of this miracle that God made for him, he was called Elisha, the man of the wings, bal kanafayim. Now, umayshna, then the Gemara says, umayshna kanfe yonah misha ofot. Why was it that the miracle happened with wings? There's a lot of things that God could have turned. So that, by the way, there's some want to say it didn't actually. Was it the way the Gemara sounds like? The miracle was that it actually turned. There were wings in his hand. Some understand that means it appeared to the Roman official as if it was wings in his hand. It wasn't that the tefillin wasn't the tefillin was still there, but it appeared like wings. So the Gemara says, what is the difference Why was now the Gemara is asking the question, the bird, the dove. There are many birds, right? There are many birds that are kosher birds. Why the dove bird out of all the birds? So the Gemara says, Mishum di itmil knesset Yisrael liyona. Because the Jewish people are compared to the Yonah, as David HaMelech says to Tehillim, Shenema kaf Yonah nechva kesef. And my Yonah. Now, what is the comparison? Why should the Jewish people, in what way, were compared to a dove? Why? My Yonah kinafeh meginat aleh. The bird, the wings of the bird, protected from the cold because it's cold outside today, right? That's its blanket. That's its coat. The wings protected from the cold, and also from other birds that want to go ahead and start up with it. And people that are coming, it flaps its wings, it hits with its wings against the people that are coming to get the dove. Rashi says other birds, and it says that it hits with the top of its wings. And this is unique for this. This is unique for the bird, for this dove bird. The other birds don't fight with their wings. That's how Rashi understands. Af Yisrael, the Jewish people, mitzvot magin aleim. The mitzvot protect you, David. The mitzvot that you do is protection. Good morning. Some people buy insurance. Insurance doesn't protect you. It just protects you financially. Doesn't protect the person from having trouble. They have fire insurance. Okay. It doesn't prevent the fire. It doesn't prevent thievery. But the security to protect from having trouble, having the enemy or the people causing actual damage to the person, is the mitzvot. And therefore we are compared to the dove, the dove, because just as its wings goes ahead and protects it from anybody hurting it, so too we have to remember the power of mitzvot. Mitzvot are a tremendous protection. And of course, the learning of Torah, which is the greatest mitzvah, is the greatest protection. I think it says that the learning Torah protects you throughout the day. The mitzvah protects you for sure during the time you're doing the mitzvah. But the Torah has that 24-hour effect, I'm saying, or that lasting effect that it protects you during the time you're learning and even during the time that you're not learning. So we have to appreciate all the mitzvot and recognize the tremendous protection that we have. Maybe that's also an idea why people wear tzitzit during the day, the whole day. Even though technically there's different reasons why we should wear tzitzit the whole day, talit katan. But here's an additional reason. Because when you're wearing tzitzit the whole day, you're having protection the whole day. Because you're doing the mitzvah of tzitzit the whole day. Therefore, even in this previous war in Gaza, many Israeli soldiers were wearing tzitzit. There were thousands of pairs of tzitzit that was given for them, and that served them as great protection. Have a great day, everybody. And I get 10% every pair. Thank you very much. You too. Welcome. Good to see you, Eddie, again. Every day you add.